aspects of planning. And to do so, I've opened an Excel sheet. Like say, for example, we are planning for construction of the residential building or some construction project. Okay, so what you generally do is you list down various activities. Say, for example, all right. So you can initially think of some different various activities. Activities, right? So basically, what you do is whatever that comes in your mind, we'll just jot down. Then we'll arrange that in a sequential order. Then we can probably look into the scheduling part. Maybe Friday's class will look into the scheduling part, right? Something like say construction um, construction of G+1 residential building, say 1,000 square feet, uh, built up area, something like that. Okay, so whatever that comes in your mind, just let me know. So what will be the first step? First step is drawing layout, something like preparing drawing layout. Then seeking approval from domestic agencies, or you can even put domestic government agencies. And preparing this thing initial or something like design, or it can also called as preliminary design, then followed by uh, intermediate design, or kind of a detailed design, then preparing um, quantity then preparing budget, then preparing or list of contractors or vendors, or you can even talk about subcontractors, something like that. Then prepare then probably once that is done, and um, preparing construction drawings, that includes RCC, then RCC is everything like all RCC members, then form work, then probably scaffolding, and so on. So this is something, scaffolding may not be required for G+1, but it's a safety measure. Then that's it. So these are some of the things that is generally done before construction. So we can even call this to be pre-construction tasks. Next, we'll talk about something called, let's change the color to orange, something like this. And just for this, I can give something called, okay. Then what basically, this is like construction stage. All right. So what are the things that generally does is quantity here, preparing quantities and labors. You can even call this budget and monetary details, something like that. Okay, so this is something an pre-construction task. And construction task, you look into the first thing is the site clearance. You clear the site, then you mark the central line. Generally they have a pegs and the threads, they mark the center line so that they can do an excavation. So the next step is earthwork excavation. Then something like dewatering. So um, if your site is infiltrated with water, the construction process might delay, and this is optional. And during rain also, sometimes you have to remove the excess water that probably could encounter during a construction excavation. And in a cold and um, extreme climate, then they do de-icing. So the frost action can be removed by brine solution, something like that. They use it, but this is not our paradigm. But understand this is an optional thing. Um, uh, then probably we talked about dewatering. Then the earth pit. Uh, put soil, you can do transportation from that site to other place for this thing, or uh, just no um, projecting it to some place, or transporting the earth with soil, I mean the excavated soil, or you can use it oil. You can transport it, or you form a heap, temporary heap, so that you can make use of that for filling. So this is one thing. Then you can probably consolidate the soil underneath the excavated surface. Probably consolidated is ramming your soil so that it becomes a hard surface or something like that for placing the footing. If you don't do that, then your footing might wobble, or it might settle in some place, something. So that might cause the weakening of the building, something like that. So that's what another process called consolidating the soil underneath the excavated surface, and followed by laying PCC for footing. And here we need to understand shallow footing, because it's Z plus 1, and we assume that the soil is very good for a soil has a safe bearing capacity. And then laying PCC footing. Then what we generally do is lay out the form work for RCC footing. So this is very important, because if it is a brick footing, say for example, if it is a brick footing, then we look into the laying of bricks and mortars, like that. So this is one thing, and this is for brick stepped footing or brick footing for RCC footing. Then RCC footing, assemble the reinforcement bars for brick, not for brick and brick footing, right? say this is one activity. Then once it is assembled, reinforcement we call system, because that includes not only bars but binding wires, the stirrups and so on. So that's a very important thing. And then it's a very interesting thing. Once that is done, then pour concrete into the footing formwork, and something like not for brick coating or stuff coating. But here I just wanted to give some optional thing, but that decision will be taken from here itself. Like once they do a preliminary design, they look into what type of footing, what type of sorry, intermediate design and detailed design, they look into what type of footing and what type of structural members and so on. So this is something to be checked here. Okay, so for the understanding I've just given both the types. And once the concrete is poured, and curing of concrete, and before curing of concrete it has to be something called stripping of the formwork, uh, depending upon the day, 7 days or 14 days, depending upon the sectional property section of footing. If a stumpier section, they take a lot of time. And also materials, say for example if they are self-compacting with the retarders, then they have to wait for longer time to strip that formwork, stripping of the uh, footing formwork, something like that. Then curing of concrete, which is the footing, and something like that. Okay, so this is something, and very important thing. And you can call this construction stage 1, and you can call substructure, or you can even call construction stage 1. Then we can insert this, and you can call construction stage 2. Oops. Merge them. And very important here, you just note down this is a substructure. And next thing, here probably it's a stage 3. It is called the superstructure. Right? Right. So I think we can have a lot of sometimes there's an area that is intermediate between substructure and a superstructure. Say that is called plinth beam and the soil smoothing. If it is a slab on grade, which is the flooring part, if it is there, then you should look into the consolidation of soil. And something like that. So maybe after this curing of concrete, then fill the voids. Voids in the sense, we can even fill the earth with the um, soil already stored in the stored heap, or other soil which was brought in case that particular soil is not good enough or something like that. Then consolidation of soil, or you can even call compaction. That's a correct term than consolidation. And Then the process of laying formwork, rebar, pour concrete, and stripping and curing. So this entire chunk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'll just have to give 5. 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy the entire stuff, but I'm gonna give it as like instead of footing, it's plinth beam, the beam that is above um, the foundation, and that's the first portion. Then instead of footing, I'll just change this to plinth beam. Mm. Then curing of concrete, plinth beam. So probably this completes that. And a process called soiling, which is uh, once the concrete of a plinth beam gets cured, and the voids that forms between the plinth beams, it's actually the floor, and that's when we don't have the slab on grade. This is optional because we will just fill the earth for this process, but for generally a filling of voids using filling of um, floor surface with soil and DPC, damp proof course. Since this is the substructure, water might percolates above, so it's a process that is mandatory, right? And this is 30. So whatever we do after this will be superstructure, and we can call that be construction stage 3. So this is for a small construction. Think of bigger construction projects, and we see that will be enormous. So the third phase is something a very interesting thing, and all the process, the three things remains the same, like layout, pour, strip, and cure. So first one will be columns for RCC columns, then reinforcement for RCC uh, columns, then pour concrete into the form RCC column formworks, then stripping of RCC column formwork. Here, stripping of plinth beam formwork, then curing of RCC columns, and the formwork gets reused. So here you can even say there will be a lot of columns, then reuse of column formworks. So that is an intermediate step here. Then once column is ready, then we will be doing beam and slab together. So once the column is ready, then we will be taking RCC beam, sometimes only beam, then they go for slab, or depending upon the type of construction mechanism they use. For since it's um, a simple structure, then I'll just put RCC beam and slab formwork, RCC slab formwork. So which means we have done story one. Say for example, you can even insert, probably you can call this to be ground floor, right? And this is a ground floor is a British term. So if you're an American, then they just call American term is the first floor. So understand that ground floor concept is not there in America. So the first thing is called, they call first floor anything above the ground. So that's depending upon the client you work, so you should really change the aspects. Then this is entire slot is ready, slab is ready, and here probably you can see the slab, the filling, no, the curing of concrete and something like that. uh, Here substructure, you can even call substructure 1, and you can just plinth beam, slab on grade. Okay, so insert, and you can even still call this construction stage 2, substructure 2, because sometimes this is a floor, so plinth beam and floor, flooring, or you can even give something called flooring, soiling, DPC and all, and after before that is flooring with what they call tiles, ceramics, or even concrete flooring. Even put cement concrete flooring, something like that. So once that is ready only, they'll generally go for columns, because they cannot stamp on the fresh concrete floor, something like that. So this will be the one, right? I'll just go. Okay. Then this becomes the superstructure, and the next one will be uh, we'll leave some gap here, and I'll let you know why we left some graph. Then this will become first floor, or this will become second floor in case America, but this is the last floor. The entire process repeats. We will have the entire process repeats. But there are some activities that can go parallel. Say once this beam and slab is ready, we generally go for this thing, and in between you can always go for other type of construction. Say for example electrification for I put floor 1, so do not get confused, it's the ground floor, and MEP, mechanical electrical plumbing for floor 1. You can always expand this particular thing into a greater depth, but for a preliminary thing, we just stick on to this particular aspects. Right? Um, then MEP, electrification and plastering both interior and exterior units, or exterior units. Then same way, like painting interior and exterior units. Then probably you can take a look at this thing. I changed color for this first floor. um, I just put green, so this everything will be in green, and painting, and something like furnitures, or you can even call them to be a carpentry for not necessarily the materials, it's doors and windows, and steel works, and here I'll just put glass works also, because uh, ventilators, or the one that is installed in balcony or glass or something. Steel works in case it has got something like the handrails, something like that, or banister or baluster, something like that, architectural thing. Steel works. This is for floor 1. Everything for floor 1, floor 1, floor 1, floor 1. Okay, and this is also gets repeated. Um, Sometimes they finish entire construction unit, then they'll go for plastering and painting at one stretch. So depending upon the uh, engineer's perspective, they can always do this. Once this RCC beam, this will not be there for floor 2 because the process gets stopped here. Reuse is not possible there. Alright, so this is something like 66 activities, and probably the next phase can be post construction phase. I'll change it to some other color. Post construction phase, something related to operations and maintenance, something like that. Then this probably can go on and on. So this is typically construction. Even though I just said like I'll give it in random, but just wanted to keep everything. I think I can change the color for this ground story. Change the colors to, yeah, superstructure. Then probably this can go together, orange colors. So, and stage 1 substructure, I'll give it. This is extremely unpleasant. Yeah, here it is. And this thing, yeah. So this is how. Okay. So I'll just give black, then font to be white. Okay. All right. So this is a simple planning process for construction. So this is what you're gonna do after your 4 years. Like you'll be dealing with mega projects, then you'll be looking into all these things, right? So what the assignment number 1 is that we'll be focusing primarily on. We'll give you a task. The deadline for that is March 3. I'll upload this after this class. So you have to make up a description of that thing based on the drawing. And I'll share this document also for this thing, but this is only hypothetical. So for example, if they say column, I just said column, but in real practice there will be a lot of columns, so you can name them as column 1, column 2, column 3, and once you reuse it, like from column 1 to column 3, the form work, you can give the reuse pattern or something like that. So this is a basic holistic idea. So I'll just share this after this class in the MS Teams.